Confidence comes from the work that you do. You take action, then you become confident.
You went and did the 50 miler back in Austin.
It fucking went so bad.
A stomach ulcer.
I don't know exactly. I'm not a doctor here, mate, but I didn't ask any questions. He says stomach ulcer, so I'm sitting there panicking. Doctor looks at it and looks at me and goes, "I've never seen this before." I'm off.
Hey, it's been a while since I've had you on.
Been a minute.
I tell you what, there's some serious lore to our podcast. We've now done 3. This is our 3rd together.
3rd podcast together, 3 different studios.
I know. Oh, wild.
3, also 3 different years as well. 24, 25, 26.
Yeah, mental. Because you came on Prodcast when that was a thing.
Yep.
And then you were the first episode of Motional Intelligence. So you kicked this whole thing off, mate.
Also, do you remember?
You were Spotify Wrapped, top podcast of 2025.
It's not about the numbers, it's about the impact you make. But it's also nice. It's nice that you got to start the new podcast with a bang.
Mate, honestly, I have so much appreciation for you for coming on that. By the way, welcome, Jonny Davies.
Thank you very much.
But yeah, I have so much appreciation for you hopping on that, because I feel like sometimes in this space, relationships you make with other creators, we've known each other for years now, and I always feel like you very much allowed me to have a conversation with you when I was a lot smaller, and sort of gave me the time of day, which then in turn created a good friendship between us, which then had a knock-on effect later on, which is so sick.
Oh, 100%. I think it always comes down to supporting one another. And a lot of people say like, "Oh yeah, I support this person." And support is like you showing up, you're there. Victoria Line, first time we properly met. You ran day 2 of the day 2, day
it was
4.
18K?
25K, mate.
25, yeah.
Don't short the distance down, okay? That was a long challenge. Day 4 of Run the Line 2023, you came down, that's when we met properly. My first time we got a picture together.
Yeah.
Which we'll put up.
Brixton Station.
Here.
Yeah, here. I look so different there.
Oh, mate, honestly, so different. But that's the thing, it's about like, when you've got people in similar sort of space to you and like they care about what they're doing, they're trying to make something of it. Don't get me wrong, I meet people all the time who, through this sort of stuff, and like, they're trying something. They may not have like the best intentions. For me, I'm always doing this from an angle of like I'm trying to help people, trying to build people's confidence, trying to build people's abilities, trying to add value in that sense there. So whenever I see someone else with that same mentality, that same attitude towards it, I'm always willing to help and support in that sense there. So I mean, you turn up to my stuff before I turn up to your stuff. So I'm just repaying the favour, mate.
Of course. I feel like it's one of the things as a creator I kind of struggle with sometimes. You may agree with this, is the whole, if sometimes you look from the outside looking in.
Yeah.
I don't like the clout chaser mentality that you sometimes see with certain people. And it's almost like, I think you should always be friends and be associated with people that you genuinely back and believe in, not because they pull in big numbers and they'll benefit your career.
Oh, 100%.
I couldn't sit myself and go, I've only got them on because I know they're going to bring in big numbers.
Yeah.
I need to actually be interested. Same with the podcast. Like
100%.
Round to Japan pulls in ridiculous numbers.
Yeah.
Biggest podcast, like YouTube numbers by a long way.
Yeah.
But I'm so interested by his story. Like I would literally have chatted to him for hours without these cameras and microphones even on. Do you know what I mean?
No, I think you have to have an active interest in what that person's about, what they're doing, their story, and you've got to find some sort of way to relate within that as well.
For sure.
I think that's such an important aspect to it, because you do probably see it in social media, like these relationships of convenience. The problem that does is if you're willing to value a relationship of a friendship of convenience over an actual friendship, and put more time and effort into one of convenience rather than actual true friendship of true support, it can mess with your value system. I think that's a really important thing, that your values, your core values, core beliefs are such an important component to who you are as a person, to your life, and you don't want to fuck those around at all.
Do you think content creation and like the space, particularly when it is quite transactional as a business, do you think it can imbalance your value system quite a lot without even realizing?
I think if you are not aware of it, it can do, because obviously when things start to go where you want them to, numbers start moving in certain directions and things get really exciting, you start getting invited to more things, you start getting included in things that you were maybe before not included on.
You have your moment almost.
You have your moment, that's the thing, and it can, I think, depending where you're at. I started making content when I was 30 years old. Like I had a lot of life beforehand, so for me it was like, I could have that experience going into it being like, okay, this is cool, but like my friends are my friends because I've been friends with them since, since I was like 14 years old. We've been through all this stuff together. There's no way I'm going to start like bailing on actual friends stuff for the sake of these events or what it is. And I was also a bit like, for me, it was just never that exciting. So like, that's why I don't particularly go to that many of these like big events. If it's something that's really cool, and also I can bring a +1. If I can bring my mates to it, that's wicked. If I can't, I'm just like, I'm not particularly interested. Like if I have to go, like every now and then I get invited to like trips where it's like, oh yeah, this creator. I'm like, okay, that's really cool and interesting. I'm sure I have a good time, but like, I'd also kind of like to bring my mate with me on this one, like,
for sure.
because again, it's especially if I've already got plans that week with that person or whatever it is. So
yeah, no, I had a moment of reflection a bit because a fair few years ago now, like when I first got into the space, it must have been like when I was working at Fellas. I can't remember what year it was, but basically when I first started working in the YouTube world, I was going to the pub with my mates. And I remember there was a shoot with some other YouTubers going on, and I like sort of said, no, I can't do it because I'm going, to the pub with my mates. And I remember going to the pub with my friends, and it was so bad. Like, honestly, I cringe at myself thinking about this. But it's just the thing, you live, you learn.
Yeah, of course.
I'm being open and honest about it because I realised I was a fucking twat.
Yeah.
I essentially left the pub with my mates to go and join this video shoot, which I thought would be beneficial to my career. And then as a result, kind of had to tell a lie to my mates as to why I was leaving.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh, well, they won't... they don't need to know that it's for work. And as a result, I sort of fucked the lie up massively. And then after I'd said the lie, I was like, mate, they're going to notice I'm in a video shoot. They're going to know that it was the same day because I'd already spoken about it with them.
Yeah.
And then as a result, I did this thing. It was a complete waste of my time.
Yeah.
And obviously it was because the universe doesn't align like that. You can't do something bad to the people that really matter to try and benefit your career and it work out. That doesn't work like that. So obviously the universe sorted it out and it was a complete waste of my time. I then went back to the pub and where my friends still were, and I just basically said, lads, I'm so sorry. I've been an absolute dick here.
Fair play.
And they were like, you know what? I haven't lived it down since.
Yeah.
And it's still a thing in the group chat, and I'll just firm it because I honestly was a little cuck for work.
Mate, 100%. That's it. And that's the thing. Good friends, like, it's funny that they'll keep that going as well, because then it just becomes like part of like the group lore anyway. And like,
but it's crazy how you think in that moment, you're like, this is so important. This is everything. And
it's never that important. Like, the most important things are the things that you're doing, going to events, like meeting people. Okay, they're great and all that at all, but like, it really isn't that. And again, this is why like I'm really happy I got into doing this later in life after like, years of like going through schooling, life, sport, career, changing career, time away from it all, and then going into I'm quite a good communicator, I'm going to document this journey. For me then, going into that, I was like, well, I've got a really strong friendship group. Like, I know where I sit with my values. I'm not discovering myself at this point in life. I started making content when I was 30. I pretty much know who I am. I'm not really going to change all that much in that period of time there.
Unless you meet a partner that's maybe going to kind of change somewhat of your value system slightly, but ultimately you won't change too much.
But that's not happening. Single straight. No, but absolutely right. I think that's the case of it there. Like, again, you're not really going to change that much. So again, I'm pretty sure in who I am as a person. Also, you can kind of, when you get to a certain age, you can start to see through bullshitty things a bit more there. Maybe if I started doing this when I was 20 years old, completely different. I would have seen a really cool, exciting event. I'd be like, oh my God, I have to be at this thing here. And again, now it's like, it's not that important.
Yeah, you look at certain creators who are young and they come into the space young and they maybe have like, people around them that, won't necessarily they probably have their best interests at heart. Yeah. But also there's a monetary gain. Sometimes you think that young creator, what are their value system? How is it going to be affected if they're kind of around this sort of environment the whole time? I think you need a good balance of people that work in the space, but also are completely detached to it. Like, my mates couldn't give a shit.
Oh, mate, same here. Like, some of my closest friends don't even have social media. They're just like, they don't really know what I get up to. I do have to call them and tell them what's going on, because they're not going to see what I'm up to in that sense, which is great, because also what I'm putting out there isn't everything I'm up to. That's like a bit of a highlight reel of the things I'm training for, things I'm doing. If I'm having a really terrible week, I'm not going to make a video, looking all sad on camera, being like, Same reason why, like, if I'm in a relationship, and I have been in and out of relationships throughout making content, I don't share that as a part of what I do. I think relationships, and there are certain things like friendships I obviously do share, because a lot of my content I do talk about the friendships I've got and how important those are to me. But when I've been in a relationship over the last few years, I've never shown that on social media. Yeah. Really important reason behind it is, like, I think when you start letting people in, again, no shade to those that do. Yeah. If you guys are cool with doing that, that's fine.
Well, the only reason I show a lot about... Sorry, mate. No, it's fine. Don't worry, mate. I don't think Izzy and I would share our relationships on social media if the other person wasn't a creator.
There we go. That's the thing that also, because you guys have also been together for so long. Yeah. It's not like you're a year in. But what I always worry and think about is, like, ultimately inviting people's into your relationship. It depends how far deep you go. If you mean, you guys aren't, you're not the super deep things you're talking about in your personal life, in your relationship. You're not sharing that online, or you're not, and I think that's a really important thing, because all of a sudden when you open the door for people to have opinions on your relationships or this or this or this, I think it's one of those things that people love the drama, people love the gossip, right? That's why dating TV shows do so well. That's why they're the most viewed. Isn't Love Island like the most viewed show in this country? Which says a lot about what people's general interests are. People love looking at other people's relationships. It's just natural, okay? Yeah. Not my cup of tea, but I understand those that do. So you got to think, if you start, and this is a dangerous thing, you start sharing more relationship and on content, that will do quite well. And all of a sudden, you're then building a following based on your relationship with the person, which will then, I can see how that can often change how someone approaches their relationship or approaches this. I can always imagine when people making couples content, like they're in a massive argument and then they're setting up a tripod being like, right, look like we like each other for 5 minutes here because we've got to do this bloody video for X, Y, and Z brand. Like I think it can change. And I think there are just some things, in my opinion, that are really special and really important. And I think that they're special because they're private.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned starting content at 30. I think a lot of people don't realise the Jonny Davies law around,
mate.
around work. Like, I've spoken to you so much off camera about what you used to do for work.
Yeah.
And I really don't think people realise like how locked in you were in the finance world. Can you explain it a little bit?
To a degree, yeah.
Yeah.
Financial tech, I was in it for a while. And before that, I was a co-founder of a company when I was at university, in my third year, which snowballed into what I ended up doing. Company got acquired, I left, and then I spent 2 years doing different consultancy work, which took me all over the world, Middle East, Canada, eventually back to London. I lived all over Madrid. Like it was an awesome time of life.
All your mid to late 20s.
Pretty much through that, yeah. I mean, but that period of time from when I was like, because I had a really weird upbringing in a sense. I left home when I was 15.
Really?
Yeah, I felt like my mum. She kicked me out when I was 15. And so then my old man lived in Cambridge, which is not that far from where I was at school in Hertfordshire. I then, from the age of 15, I just had to wake up at 5 in the morning, commute to a village in Hertfordshire to go to school and go for that. Mm-hmm. And my dad worked in London, so he was not really like, he's also a great bloke, my dad. We do a lot of stuff together and that. But also, like, my dad was like a single bloke in his like 40s, 50s around that time. And like,
he wasn't too paternal.
Oh, no, not at all. Like, take me to rugby and that sort of thing. We do that sort of stuff there. But like, oh yeah, he was just like, it was then just like kind of living with a mate, and then also like I just lived with mates and that sort of stuff for those years. So like my last year at school was a really weird thing because my mum was a teacher.
Okay.
So I went from living with a teacher who's helping with my schoolwork and this sort of stuff to then like 14 turned to 15. All of a sudden I was like, oh, I'm like, and I'm an adult now. Like, because my dad was like, here's a tenner for your train fare for the week. Like, crack on, don't be late for school.
Yeah.
The worst thing was, like, to be on time for school, there's a train every hour. If I got the later train, I'd be 5 minutes late. Or if I got the early train, I'd be 55 minutes early. And I remember speaking to a teacher when this happened, my head of year, and he was like, well, you know the answer to that? I was like, what? He goes, never be late. I was like, fuck. He says, if you're late, I know you're just taking the later train. It's like a valuable lesson in life. Like, he's like, better to be 55 minutes early than 5 minutes late. I remember the time being like, oh mate, I was like, please, come on, man. And like, but it was the case for there. So because it was like I had to bus from where my dad lives to Cambridge Station.
So your dad was like Luton way, wasn't he?
Originally Luton, but then he lived in Cambridge.
Okay.
And so I was like, bus from where my dad lived outside of Cambridge to the Cambridge Station, train across down to this little village. And then it's like a fucking 3-mile walk to the school. And I did it there and back again each day. But here's the thing. From that, because my old man would wake up for like 4:30 for work every day. Because he worked in construction. So I was always like, oh, that's just what you do as an adult. Get up, work really hard.
Yeah. Set a good value.
Set the standard, man, 100%. So like, that's what I think, I've never been like, the idea or worry of like, oh, fuck, this is going to be hard work. It's like, oh, wicked. Cool. I like a bit of hard work in there. There's nothing wrong with grafting. And always like, one of the things I always like to put across my channel or mention is like, obviously be kind to yourself. Like, don't punish yourself in a sense there, but hard work, that massive amount of hard work takes to do anything is the thing that's going to take you to where you want to get to in life. Yeah. Like, genuinely, that and a bit of self-belief, you can achieve so much by just accumulating days of work and work and work and work. And eventually, like with anything, like with any habit you pick up, after 2 or 3 weeks, it becomes the norm. Mm-hmm. Like when I say lock in, and I like the term lock in, people still criticize it as a bit toxic. I love the term lock in because it's not like a permanent thing. You take time back out from it. But anyway, I digress. So I was there for the Cambridge while, went to uni in Cambridge, not at Cambridge, went to this really shit one. I had a punting company in Cambridge.
No way.
Yeah.
You were doing the punts along the river.
Bro, I did it for a year to learn how it's all done. Then I was doing the selling.
Employed people.
And then me and my mates got some boats together and we started growing that.
That's
Then that kept me in Cambridge. And then so for me, it was like full-time work, had the business, do my studies. And it was again like, I didn't really have a university experience per se, because I was just like, wicked, like let's keep doing this. And again, same thing. If you back yourself, believe it, you can do all these amazing things. So that really set me up well. So by the time I left uni, like I just paid for uni as I went. I didn't have to get like a student loan or anything like that. Grafting, had my own gaff in Cambridge, working really hard. A lot of my main friends are friends from that period of time, like Big George, when State New Year's. I met him on the boats. Joe, Henry, all the lads that often come in and out of my content, we all met through that thing. We all did the same thing. We all worked on the boats. And it was one of those things where, like, I remember when I was like 15, 16, started doing it, you basically have to go up to people in the street with a sales board. Would you like to go punting today? Obviously, that's a really poor sales pitch. You know, you would be like, are you guys visiting?
I'm rejecting that offer. Sorry,
straight away. Like, sorry, guys, you visiting Cambridge today? You go.
Yeah, I am.
Fantastic. Obviously, the University of Cambridge, along the river, you've got the seven major colleges, 7 bridges. The only way to see them, you can't walk on the riverbanks, you've got to go on the boat. So that's the spiel sort of thing. I remember the first few months of doing it, I was fucking terrible because I was so nervous. And it was one of those things that taught me how to be confident and how to speak to people and how to communicate. And my mate George, great bloke, best man's wedding the other year, big lad, sometimes in my content. I'd look at him and he's like he makes me small. He's a massive, massive bloke. And he's just like the loudest man I ever heard. And I'd see him speak to this giant groups of people and he was such a good communicator. And I just would shadow him for a little while. And then all of a sudden I started getting confident.
Yeah.
But no, so I learned that. And then we got the boats in and we were doing that for a few years. That was class. Like, honestly, it was the best time ever because like you're all young, all like lads, 17, 18, 19, 20, just like grafting hard. Winters were horrible, don't get me wrong. Like we used to work winters through outdoors all day and they sucked.
So people still going on the punts in winter?
Really, Cambridge is a really busy tourist city, so you get loads of people through there. But it's class. So yeah, we did. So from that age, from like 15, I just worked.
Hard work has always been in your DNA, then.
100%. Yeah. So the idea is, so that's why now we're doing these big like challenges or ultramarathons. Same thing. Like the idea of me, like, oh no, I've got to now train for 3 hours a day, and then we was going to film this and edit this and do this, and we're going to do this and this. And I'm like, yeah, sweet, all right, cool, let's crack on with it then. Like, it's never once like made me flinch in that. Don't mind, I do get tired. I'm a bit like, oh fucking, I've still got this to do today. But it's like, cool, let's just get it done because I know it's going to help me get to where I want to get to, and just sticking it out really.
Yeah. Is it a case for you as, do you look at those years, well, in the moment, were you like, oh, for fuck's sake, why do I have to do this? Or did you really relish it and thrive off it?
I loved it, honestly, 100%. Yeah, you know what it is because I didn't come from like a particularly like well-off background in that sense there. Mum's teacher, dad construction. They were split when I was really young and like grew up with fuck all money. My school, Melbourne Villiers College, shout out Melbourne Villiers College, shithole. No, it's not, apparently not now. But after I left, they apparently were so bad, they got like a really bad Ofsted report and
sometimes
they invested loads of money. Like they wear like shirts and blazers at this school now. When I was there, it was like
polos
and jumpers, yeah. But no, it was, I get that. My mum was an English teacher. So growing up, the one thing she like really put into me was speaking well, speaking properly, reading as well. So she would have me, as much as I bloody hated it for at the time, really happy. Like the stuff she made me read growing up continuously, it would be like, she was quite strict in that sense because I had like a 9 p.m. bedtime when I was like 14 years old, like quite strict stuff. And like, it was again like reading a book once a week. Again, standards, like, and the stuff that I still carry through to this day, like I still try now, read one book a week.
1 book a week is crazy, by the way. I'm the slowest reader.
Mate, 30 minutes for bed, just easy.
Yeah, fair enough.
Or be like the performative mail and just bring a book with you everywhere you go.
Yeah, I'm a Kindle guy now.
You Kindle man? See, it's not what I like doing with having actual books is I like to be able to, if I'm thinking of a friend whilst reading it, I just make notes along the side of it or like underline things, then I can give the book to a friend after.
That's nice, but I just hate the space that it takes up.
Oh, really?
I've got a 1-bed flat, mate, and it takes up so much room just having these books. And I've got no proper shelves to put them on. I've got no like bookcase. Yeah, that's why.
No, that's having a nice bookshelf makes it look good. If you've just got books piling up everywhere, they are so irritating in the way. But I also think it's nice, like, especially if you pick up books that have been someone's written years ago. I like seeing if you pick up a book from like a charity shop or like from wherever or a secondhand book, you often find someone's left notes in there or like it was the book was originally a gift for someone, and then you see that it's nice. Someone's thought of someone when they're
really
reading
nice.
it. I think it's a really lovely thing in that sense. So no, the concept of like doing hard things or like hard work, I still recognise that these things are hard and it's challenging to focus because I still struggle with concentrating. which is probably why actually I've got to ban myself from watching TikToks or Instagrams, because I can get into a little doom scroll.
Shout out the brick.
Oh yeah, I've seen this.
Mate, it's brilliant.
Really?
I'm the worst for scrolling during sets at the gym. So I'll be like, fuck, I've rested for 2.5 minutes because I've just been looking at reels. And so I'm now bricking myself to go down to the gym.
That's cool. That's a smart way to
Yeah.
there.
But obviously you mentioned your mum and how you moved out of home.
Yeah.
Why am I asking you guys back in comms now?
Oh yeah, so I saw her Christmas. Yeah, we're sweet
nice.
now. Yeah, 100%.
Cool.
I didn't speak to her properly for a couple of years.
Okay.
It's I was it was a bit of a. The weird thing is, at the time, I was like, oh, this is cool. I was like, sweet. I fucking don't have to go to bed at 9 o'clock anymore. Class. Same with my dad. I'd stay with him at weekends anyway, so I was quite used to staying there. But it was a bit like, I was like, I'm an adult now. This is wicked. Reality of looking back, it was very much like there was an element of a trauma response in there. And did all the work through my 20s, going to therapy, this kind of stuff there. I thought it was, I just thought it was a bit of a normal thing. And all of a sudden I had this I went from quite a restricted life of parent, pick bus outside the house, go to school, come back. I lived in a tiny little village as well. So all of a sudden, living in Cambridge, which at the time in my head was a really big city. Cambridge is tiny, but in my head it was the biggest.
Comparatively,
yeah. So, but that for me was at the time I was like, sweet, here we go. And again, it was just, parents this is their first time giving these things a go as well. So I hold no.
We literally said that on the last pod.
Yeah.
With Hugo, we were saying about how it's our parents' first time at living.
100%, yeah, of course. The maddest thing is now is I'm now older than the age my mum was when she had me, and I'm like, that's wild. So no, 100%. It was just, it is what it is in that sense. But it was definitely a bit of a response for me to be right, I got to fucking do something here because I'm kind of on my own with this. I got to make it happen. But that's always the attitude of carried to most things. If I don't do it, it won't happen. So okay, I got to go.
Bang on, man.
That's it. And but there's, I guess, an element of during that period of time to get by, to get through, to get some money in my pocket, to make sure I'm sweet. Because also by doing all that, I kind of fucked up my A-levels a little bit as well. Because when you give someone too much freedom, and there's no one to know and saying, hey, you got to go to sixth form. I'm like, get fucked. I'm going to work on the punts today. So I'd rather go earn £100 cash in hand than I would go to sit in a sixth form lesson where I'm just it's well boring.
I think it's safe to say there's no 15-year-olds that listen to this pod, but we can agree all of that shit is so pointless now looking back at it.
Oh, mate.
I think the most value I've ever got from the education system was going to uni and doing student radio on the side of my course, because that taught me the values that I have now. I feel like I would have learned so much more if things were done a different way. And I was a unique case in the sense that I always needed the extra attention. I needed the smaller classes to concentrate and all of this sort of stuff. But there's so many things now as a self-employed person, I haven't got a fucking clue. And we didn't get taught them. Yeah. It's just mental. I know it's that whole recycled thing of, why don't they teach things like accountancy and insurance and, all of this tax stuff when you're at school?
No, 100%. I mean, I think elements, pros and cons. I think there's a lot of, I look back now and think, what are the things I learned the most? And I remember the teachers that cared. I remember they're the ones I picked up. My history teacher, shout out George Tabat. Not sure if he's a big avid follower. He was it was actually mental because my school was quite shit, but we had a few really amazing teachers. And they're the ones that, again, when you have people who believe in you and inspire that within yourself, there's only a class 15, 16 of us. He was a Cambridge or Oxford professor who, because of the woman he started going out with, had to then move to this village and just became a history teacher, who's the most overqualified GCSE history teacher there's ever been. And he was the most, my other big passion is history. I love history. I watch his history podcasts. Most books I read are on history. I'm fascinated
I'm really getting into it now.
Yeah. It's one of those things, when blokes turn, I've always been into it, but when blokes turn a certain age, they either go, was it IPAs or history? And or both, to be fair.
Do you know my favourite YouTube channel?
Go for it.
It's the Penguin YouTube channel. Have you seen it?
What's that?
Okay, I'll pull it up real quick. It's essentially just a YouTube channel that have made these short narrated history documentaries. Yeah. And it's amazing. There's one really good one. Don't know why this isn't, there you go, Penguin History it's called. And this is, so all the videos look like that. You may have seen them pop up on your feed.
Oh yeah, penguin. Sorry, I thought you meant about penguins.
I watched one about
the Penguin, the publishing house. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, my bad.
It was there was one recently about the Rwandan genocide, which is so interesting. But the most damning one that I saw, well, not damning, but so interesting, was the Romanian dictator that got executed live on TV.
Oh yeah, because he tried to escape in his helicopter, and they put that's
and they just put him and his wife in a room and essentially just said, we're coming up with a court here and you're executed.
Right, mental. It made, and also that wasn't that long ago.
No, No, not at all.
That's a crazy thing to think. But the thing again, same with Rwanda. It wasn't actually that long ago there.
It's mad, yeah.
Watch Hotel Rwanda.
Hotel Rwanda.
Fantastic film based on everything that happened during that period of time.
Yeah.
Really, really good.
Like awful. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
but no, history. Yeah, big passion.
history, proper passion into there. How do we get onto history?
This is the podcast, mate. Full of tangents. We actually were trying to talk about your financial career.
No, so when I started working in my 20s through university, worked with the punting, set myself up well. So I left university, like had enough money to take that and to go into other things. Tried a few other businesses whilst at university, and then ultimately what I ended up in financial tech was great. Bit of equity in the business, got set out of that, and then I was like, right, what do I actually want to do? Because the first time in my life, I was like, oh, I can try and figure this out. And I did some consultancy work, and I was looking at different industries in the gaming industry. So the gambling industry was one. I actually got an offer to go work somewhere for that. And I just thought, do I want to be doing this the rest of my life? Like, for me, I've always, everything I've done up to that point, I never particularly liked it or enjoyed it, but I was able just to crack on with it. And I was like, man, if I can be good at something I don't particularly enjoy, how great could I be at something that I really enjoy? And that's kind of where it came from. So for me, my motivation for then getting into content and this was because, I started taking my fitness more seriously. If you look at something from like 2016, that was like peak working time. And I was like putting the hours in, and I was in like not the best physical shape. And to then go from that, I was like, right, I got to sort this out. Got to take it seriously. Like you've done, you take your fitness seriously. You go, right, there's a point here. What's the standard on set? Because you can set standards in different areas of your life. Your work standards, your studying standards, your training standards, your content standards. All the different standards you set. And again, like sometimes you focus on one, the other ones can slip a little bit. So for me, I've just really got to like 27, 20 hours. Like, right, I want to really fucking nail on with my fitness now. And again, same thing. Okay, what do I want to get? Okay, well, I've always been big. I've always played rugby. I've always gone to the gym no matter what. Like, no matter how busy life's got, always gone to the gym and lifted. I think it's a fundamental.
It's been a non-negotiable for you.
Pretty much to the point, but and it's also, it doesn't feel like discipline because I really like it. It's one of those things. I always say discipline is doing the things you don't want to do, and sometimes for an uncomfortably long period of time. Going to the gym for me has never been. It's not a discipline thing because I enjoy lifting weights. I like how it feels. I like going to the gym. I like socializing in the gym. It for me is like it's a pleasurable thing to do. Running, on the other hand, opposite discipline. It takes discipline. I very rarely want to go and do it. It doesn't get any easier.
Yeah.
It sucks.
Yeah.
I'm naturally not good at it because of my size. There's not that many people in the space who are this big, this large, doing that distance. It drains a lot of energy out of me.
Yeah.
But it's the fact that it's hard is the angle to why I get something out of it afterwards. It's that delayed gratification. Whereas gym is like instant gratification. I have a pump. I can see myself bigger. It's like one of the only things you do where you go to the gym and you can see how you're going to look in a few months' time. In about 20 minutes, once you got a pump on, you're like, oh, fucking hell, this is pretty cool. So you have an ego stroke in there as well. It's nice. Whereas running's the other way around. Like, I look like shit after a run. Like, and it's, the benefits you get, you don't see that day, you don't see that week, you don't see that month. You literally see the years down the line.
It's that accumulation, isn't it? As you said, the gym is something that accumulation really shows its head. Because I always find that with running, it sometimes accumulates in silence a bit.
Yeah.
You need to be doing the right things to show what your fitness is.
Yeah.
Like for me, over the last month and a half, I've been doing so much easy running that my fitness is probably the same level as it was before Chicago, but it's not dwindled, it's not left. But I've not done anything apart from my 5K that's really shown what I've got in my fitness because I've not pushed my body, but it's still there. It's just in silence. Whereas in the gym, it's never in silence because you don't just suddenly like have no muscles one day and then go to the gym and suddenly you've got muscles. It's a slow, gradual accumulation that your consistency is shown physically.
No, it's a funny one. But I always just think as well, like if you just, variety is the spice of life, and it's good to mix things up. It's good to lift weights. It's good to run. It's good to challenge yourself in different ways, and it's good just to be healthy. I think there's a lot of this. Again, I'll always try and push for things, and I've got big goals and big ambitions with things I want to do in running still, and that's great. The overall thing should to be healthy with it. And again, that comes with variety. That comes with, you don't have to be running 7 days a week. A couple of runs a week is a really nice thing to do for your overall health and heart health.
Yeah.
That's a wonderful thing to do. It's going to help you have a higher quality of life. It's going to help you live longer. It's going to have you less overall, the far greater length, quality of life. Same with lifting weights. Why is it important? It helps when you get older. Like all these things are again, about having high quality of life and longevity of life. Same with nutrition. Okay, you eat really well so you're not overweight, but again, it's to help with like longevity of life and quality of life. And again, I think sometimes we overlook that in fitness because we're all chasing big goals and big dreams. That's a wonderful thing to do. But again, the overall big picture of these things is, because most people who are working 5 days a week, they're busy, they've got a family, they've got kids, they've got a missus or whatever it is. Like the idea of going, I'm going to go train for a marathon is actually quite hard to do when you've got everything else going on in your life. So I often try and pull myself back to that. Is like, most people don't have the time to implement a million things. They've got time to implement one thing. Eat a bit better, run a little bit more, lift a bit more weight. They're not going to course correct 180 degrees overnight. It's going to go 1 or 2 degrees here and there. So I'm always quite conscious of that because, again, like obviously in the content world, the fitness world, it's the things that we do and we have a lot more time to be able to put into those things there. And so, we talk about this stuff as this is life and death. And it really is like, for most people, it's an important factor, but it's not the most important factor because at the end of the day, running doesn't pay your mortgage.
Yeah, you do forget how much of an echo chamber it is because, we work in it. But at the end of the day, people are using fitness as a means to an end. They're using it to continue to be healthy, to allow themselves to do the things where they go for Thursday beers and have a big one with their colleagues. And then they go on the weekend and eat a load of like stuff with their family and they're just having a good life. And they just use that fitness as a way to kind of stay on top of their overall health. And I think that's brilliant because
100%.
that's why we all got into it. We all got into it because we want to be healthier people. But also we didn't get into it because we saw this grand master plan of being some elite athlete. I'm never going to be that. I don't want to say bang average because I'm way faster than the average, but it's like, me saying I'm average to my peers in the space.
Yeah.
I'm someone that just loves it and just wants to grow with it and show my journey doing so.
100%.
And that's that. And
that's great because it's also then becomes attainable for people watching it. That's a really wonderful thing to do. I think sometimes some of the things I do don't look very attainable because, it does require you to do, I've got a simulation run coming up in a few weeks' time that's like an 18-hour long simulation run.
Mental.
Most people don't have a spare 18 hours on a Thursday in February to go run for 18 hours, but it's the thing I'm committed to right now and I'm getting towards that. And so it is a little bit different in that sense there. But I'll always reflect it back to the point being like, this is the thing I'm chasing. That's fine. I'm not saying in order for you to succeed in life, you need to go run for 18 hours straight. You don't need to do that at all. It's just what I'm chasing after at the moment because it's a goal I got and I want to try and achieve that. And then once I achieve it, I can go, cool, I'm going to not do that.
Yeah, exactly, man. And that's your thing. And
100%.
let's talk about that because since we last spoke, you had Last Man Standing last spring, which you came on the pod just after that all unfolded. And then you went and did the 50 miler back in Austin as well. Was that in September? Was it?
End of October.
End of October.
November time, yeah.
And how did that go? Talk to me about what you've been up to since then.
It fucking went so bad. So I've run the 50-mile distance probably 30 times.
Okay, 30?
Yeah, like I've done with all the things about all the challenges, how many times a day.
Yeah.
Like 50 miles it's an uncomfortable distance, but it's a familiar distance. It's not that crazy. For reference, it's the one that Hugo absolutely dicked everyone on. Like he smashed it.
I with his pace, I feel like it was hardly a surprise as well. Because I remember him sitting here and saying, and I said to him, I was like, you're going to win that race.
Yeah.
And like there is a huge chance of it.
Yeah.
And it's one of these things. I think that is less of an endurance race. It's more of a kind of speed and mindset thing.
Yeah, because it's not a technical course. It's a looped. So it's a 10 laps of a 5-mile course, and the course isn't technical. It's more or less flat-ish. There's a few little waves in that there, but there's no technicality to it. So you could wear road racing shoes around that. It was dry as well. Anyway, I got to Texas the whole week I was there. I was like, ooh, not feeling 100%, but this could just be pre-race nerves, whatever. On the day,
when you say you weren't feeling 100%, was it the stomach?
Stomach was, and I've always had a bit of an iron stomach. My one thing that's got me through everything is the fact that I can always just, if I feel a bit bad during a race, I can smash down a couple hundred grams of carbs and I can just keep going, and it's great. Get to the race, and it was because in the evening race, it felt a bit weird starting at like 6 p.m. Obviously, very rarely do you start anything at 6 p.m., but it was a survive the night, so you run through the night. And throughout the day, I just noticed, I was like, damn, everything I'm eating, it was sitting for so long. And the week leading up to it, and again, flying over from the UK, when you travel long distances on planes, you're surrounded by other people, there's bugs going around. I just thought, I've got a bit of a cold, I've got a bit of a bug. It is what it is. Anyway, get to the start line, and just before we start, I just pop down a quick gel. Just thinking, before I do it for every race, just get a little bit extra carbs in my system. I'm like, right, here we go, lock in. I was going to go try and aim for 7 hours was the target time for 50 miles. So 80K, 7 hours. I've been training for that. I kind of knew that was where it was at. gun goes off, we all shoot through. See Hugo, off he goes. And I'm cruising, and then about 5 minutes in, this pain just starts hitting in my stomach, and I'm like, oh, could be about a bit of trap wind, maybe a bit of a burp going on. I have to like find a tree somewhere. And sorry, Nick Bear and the rest of the BPN team, I shat on this course. And just like drop the kegs down. I thought maybe we'll sort this out there. And didn't fix it. I had this really, really weird pain going on here. And it just didn't subside. So get back to the aid station where my team was. And my plan was I'm not going to stop at every lap. I'm just going to run past, grab my bottle, grab a couple of gels, and just crack on. Keep going, no problem. I was back there and I was like tilted to the side because I genuinely couldn't straighten myself out. It was so much pain going on. And I was like, what the hell is going on here? Anyway, long story short, it was the most miserable 50 miles of my entire life. I didn't enjoy a single second of it. And it turned out when I got back to the UK, I went to the doctor, I had a stomach ulcer. And basically...
Oh, shit.
Yeah, so basically... And I was like, you know, how we fix it? He's like, mate, he's like, no, it wasn't even like a small one. He was like, you've got a bad stomach ulcer. I was like,
how do they find that? Scan?
Tube down the throat. So I had to have like a camera go right the way down there because everything I explained to him was that there's also an infection alongside of that, which was part of the reason why I was feeling sick. So I went after Texas, I went to New York for a few days afterwards and to see some friends and had a few meetings there. And the entire time I was there, I was just curled up in a ball in the hotel. And I was like, mate, something is not right here. Like, I feel really, really rough. Every time I ate something, it was so painful. Every time I drank anything, so painful. Got back to London and I was like, nah, I'm going to the hospital here. And so, yeah, no, it really sucked. And so I had to literally have 6 weeks off. In the first week as well, they're like, you can risk bursting it by doing anything movement-wise. You have to really stay still. So I literally just had to like lay in bed for like a week straight.
Wait, sorry if this is really stupid. A stomach ulcer?
Yeah.
I assumed it would be like when you have an ulcer in your mouth, where it's like almost just like a bump.
Yeah, but it's on your stomach lining, inside your stomach.
But it's like liquid.
I don't know exactly. I'm not a doctor here, mate, but you know, I don't ask any questions. He said stomach ulcer, so I'm sitting there panicking.
I don't know anything, mate, about stomach ulcers. That's why I'm asking.
They can burst in your stomach. Yeah, same thing like an ulcer. Like,
and it can poison you.
Often it can happen is down to. So in my mind, he said it was stress and infection induced. And basically, if your stomach lining is really weak, it can lead to there. So the better your stomach lining is. This, bear in mind, don't quote me. I'm not a doctor. I'm just like ad-libbing what the doctor said.
No, this podcast is serious medical advice.
Yeah. And ultimately, yeah. So he was just. He's like, yeah, you really need to take it easy for a little bit, which is fine because also I do preach taking it really easy after you do any big thing. With marathon, ultramarathon, for as hard as you've trained for something and hard as you've worked for something, it's really important to take it easy and rest yourself. Because again, it's not just your muscles, it's not just your aerobic system, it's also your central nervous system. And the big thing I always preach is like your central nervous system is through months and months and months of hard training, you can really mess that up. Like after some of the big challenges I've done, I've had to take like 2 or 3 months off where, I won't, it takes me that long to go back to sleeping normal again. Yeah. Getting 8 hours straight sleep, I'll go for weird periods where I'm just sleeping a couple hours, wake up, a couple hours, wake up. Because again, like your fight or flight systems, your self-regulatory system is just out of whack because you've done so much hard effort of work for such a long period of time. So it is good to, if you are going to work incredibly hard towards something physically, you then have to do the exact opposite. What you can't do is go, wow, I've just absolutely smashed this crazy thing I've trained for. And now I'm going to do that because eventually something in your body will give. Like none of us are made out of fucking iron. We're all human, we're all flesh, we're all blood. We're all susceptible to injuries, to issues, to ailments. And again, like the one thing, especially having a platform in fitness, and especially where it's very easy to encourage people to go like, oh, we're going to go do this race here, then this race here, then this race here, then we're going to smash this thing. Like, no, you have to give yourself that time off afterwards. So it's almost a bit like, I was planning on having that time off anyway. I had nothing else planned until the new year. I was like, sweet, 2 months feet up. So as much I was in pain laying in bed, I was like, the doctor was like, yeah, you need to like spend this next week in bed, no sudden movements. Like you basically just have to eat biscuits and bread. And I was like, I fucking love biscuits and bread. Like that's wicked. I was like, oh no. He's like, yeah, spend a week in bed. He's like, really just relax. And I'm there thinking like, it's fucking, I should get stomach ulcer more often. This is wicked. I was like, oh no, I'm gonna have to spend a week watching films in bed and eating bread. And I was like, cool. But no, so it wasn't the most enjoyable of races here. No. But it's all part of the experience, Not every race is going to go to plan. There's going to be things that happen outside of your control. What it's about is, I didn't pull out, which I probably should have done, to be fair. Like in all reality, like I probably should have done that. But because I've flown from London to Texas, because I was one of only 2 of the BPN athletes who were running the race, I felt a bit silly pulling out if just because I had, also at the time I thought I just had like a bit of a stomach bug. I was like, that'll be fine, but it just meant I couldn't eat anything throughout 50 miles.
Yeah.
So I couldn't do it. Gel, couldn't do anything. I just had sips of water, and
Yeah, you're never going to survive that.
yeah. So I was like, I just dragged myself around that thing, and it was the worst thing is because it's a loop course as well. I was on lap 7 when Hugo won, so I literally
Oh shit!
I could see the finish line. I was on a part of the course that overlooks where the finish line was, and I could hear the crowd cheering there, and I was going, I've still got 15 bloody miles to run here. I was like, you're joking? I've got to now pass through that start finish line 3 more times.
Oh my god!
And it was honestly, and it was just being in so much pain. I was like, obviously, like credit to Hugo and that. And there's the guy who came second. I think like came 30 minutes after him.
But Mitch was supposed to. Mitch Amons, wasn't he? And then he pulled out.
Yeah, he had CIM, and he managed to hit his time at CIM. So I think he was just really focusing on that. The thing is with the ultra stuff, as great as it is, and I think Hugo's just like a bit of a different beast.
An anomaly.
Stuff.
Yeah.
An anomaly.
Yeah.
Doing too many events close together like that, especially when you're training for a really specific goal. Like he wanted to hit the Olympic qualifier time at a CIM marathon, which he did, and that's awesome. But like
that's sub 2:16, isn't it? Yeah.
And so like he was so set on that, and he trained so hard, and he's I think he was really just dialed in for that, and which is fair enough. But here we are now training for Last Man Standing. So this year they're not doing it in June; they're doing it in April 10th. So we're back out for the Go One More Ultramarathon.
2 weeks before London.
2 weeks before London.
Yeah,
so
amazing.
Busy, great time of year for it. It's not going to be as hot.
Okay.
It was like nearly 40 degrees last year, so
wild,
that
mate.
didn't make it too enjoyable. So April the 10th. A few of the same characters racing it last year.
Yeah, Kim and Keddle are coming back, aren't they?
Boys are back again. Yeah. And then we've also got, I've seen there's a few other people who got in the ballot who are some really serious runners, especially with this format as well. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be exciting.
That's so cool. And how do you kind of go into that sort of event in preparation? Because like you did it last year, but it didn't do badly at all. You did brilliant. You ran 100 miles, didn't you?
102 miles, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
In like really hot conditions.
Yeah, and that's incredible. But like focusing your attention onto this year to try and win it. What's your kind of thinking with that? How do you put your plan in place with your training?
So it's segmented. So, throughout last year was making sure we recovered properly from it. Mm-hmm. And then it's only 10 months between the two races.
Yeah, that's
because of how they changed dates in it there. So because of that, it's went through a really big strength block, fixing some imbalance in my legs, focusing on improving force absorption, power output. There's a whole host of things that we've been really focusing on between last year and then even the 50 miler. And then now it's just easing through the train block, volumes coming back into it. Good mix of like cross training, strength training, but very specific run-based strength training, and then obviously running. The main issue with these things is people don't fail or do badly in these formats of events because they're not quick. It's because something goes wrong. Mm-hmm. People quit because something's gone wrong, because your body basically can't take it anymore. So there's actually, weirdly enough, with a backyard ultra, yes, you are running the 6.7K every hour. The 6.7K isn't really the issue to run that, because at any given point, we can always probably knock one of those out. It's more a case of if something goes wrong, which is usually the legs start to swell, or something's preventing you from running, and you time out, you can't hit the distance within the hour, and then you're out, which is often the fatigue, so the lack of sleep. So nailing this little mini 5 sleeps every hour is so important.
Which you didn't do last year, did you?
I didn't do. No. I found it really hard with the heat, and also I caffeinated a bit too much in the day, which then affected it. So I've been speaking to people who from British Army, some special forces guys from the UK who've been coaching me through like mastering the 5-minute sleeps. Like, how do you fall asleep for 5 minutes and just enough to reset the brain? There's techniques involved with that. So I've got to do 2 simulations overnight in London with no caffeine, and every hour. So run 6.7K and then sleep for 5-10 minutes and then wake up and go straight away into running. Mastering that. If you can get 5-10 minutes every hour, it stacks up over the course of a full evening to near enough like an hour's worth of sleep, which is just enough to keep the brain ticking over and keep working through. So that's a really important component that I basically messed up on last year. I would say messed up on, like, I failed, but I learned from it, and it's okay, cool, we got to go again. The next part is like making sure your foot swellings doesn't really go too bad. I've seen on some people who go for 2-3 days, the feet can swell really bad. Like, I got foot swelling on the Capitals Challenge at like mile 300 or so. That's when they started to really go. And again, that's just more repetition, very specific gym work, very specific strength and conditioning work. And again, just how your body's ability to dissipate that force through its joints. If that starts to deteriorate, your feet are taking a lot more of the pounding on it. And again, that sort of, is going to lead them to a point where they start expanding, and that's really painful, and again generally stops people from running. So there's a whole host of things in there that we're taking from we learnt last year to take into this one. It's also quite hard because you don't really know how far you're going to go, because ultimately the race continues until one person is left. That's the nature of these races. So you ultimately just have to be kind of preparing yourself to go really far. In my head, it was like, okay, you're going to have to be 3 days. In order to be in contention for this, 3 days is probably where you need to go. And then Kim put a video out the other day. It was in German, so I kind of like semi-translated it. My German's not too great. And he was something like he was wanting to go for like 100 hours. I'm like, okay, fantastic. Well, I'll just...
But do you think, though, obviously last year they did, 3 and a bit days? No, was it?
No, just under.
Was it just
under 3, yeah.
Okay. So this year... Do you think there's a huge chance they go longer, or do you think it'll be a case of that was a fluke? And
no, honestly, I think it will go further, because you've got obviously both those two guys. They're crushing it. They've both been doing some crazy distances, and like they're really, really going up for that. And like again, credit to them and their attitude, their work ethic, because they have just that happens to them last year, and then they've just taken it with them and really started crushing it in so many other areas, and both also such awesome guys as well.
Kendall's quite fast as well.
Mate, he's rapid.
He? Yeah,
mate.
yeah.
They first up, they are both rapid. Like, but also like lovely guys. Credit to have them on the BPN team as well. But it's also a case of like they know how big this race is, and they know how the fact that they both won it, but they had to share the win. I think they both just like, we want that win. So they'll both be going at it. There's a couple other guys I've seen who got into the draw who are, again, like some, every now and then you scroll on Instagram, you'll be like, this bloke's mental. Mm-hmm. A couple of those people I've seen have got into spots. I'm like, right. So it's a whole host of characters in there. I think there's a bunch more of the BPN athletes who are doing it too as well, which is great. And, the most important thing with these things is like, it's an experience. You push yourself, you train for something specific. So for me, it's like, okay, how can we develop this, what I'm doing now, through training to get as far as I can go? And again, the most important thing is you do your best. Wherever your best is your best is. I had I challenged someone the other day talking about this, and they're like, what's how do you plan to win? I was like, my plan's not to win. My plan's to do my best. Wherever my best is, that's where it's at. And I can't be unhappy with my best, because I can be unhappy with not doing my best. I can be unhappy with not putting 100% effort in training. I can be unhappy if I'm undisciplined around my training or my structure of it, and I don't do the work, because, you haven't done the work. If you do the work, if you work as hard as you can in training, you're disciplined, you stick to the program, you progress, you learn, you appreciate that process, and then you go out and give everything you've got during a race, you should always be able to leave with your head held high. And that for me is what success is. And that's not just success because life's not a race. Life's not a first place thing. It's very rarely do things ever go perfectly in life. And, life is not a race where there is a clear first, second, third, fourth, fifth place. I don't know how that works. It's all about the effort you put in and what you learn from it yourself, and who you become in that process. It's such an important component. And I think the problem with social media a lot of the time as well is like people love to rank things now, and people like to go, well, and realistically in life, it's not really about that. It's, it's about, do you feel proud of your efforts? Do you feel proud of the work you've put in? Are you, can you look yourself in the mirror at the end of the day and say, you know what, good job? If you can do that, you're winning. That's it. That's what the success is. And so for me, it's about, can I give this absolutely everything? And I'm going to, that's the plan. I'm doing it at the moment, training really hard. And will I be proud of my efforts come the end of it? And it's like, yeah, I will be.
Yeah, I think for you as well, Jonny, it's like your efforts, obviously for you, is a scale of what you perceive as success. I think your success, though, comes in the amount that you would have inspired along that way of getting to that end goal as well.
For sure.
Like your whole thing is making, content that really kind of hits people and makes them feel like anything is possible.
Yeah.
And it's almost like, for me, I look at that and go, the success is already there before you've even started the race. Mm-hmm. It's now how you compare to yourself a year before at last year's event.
There we go.
And what you can do better this year.
100%.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. That's really kind of you to say. And it is, whenever I make content, I'll always go, what's the thing someone can take from this? What's the thing that someone can learn from this? How can the person watching this take what I'm saying and apply it to their life and maybe get through a difficult time, or maybe they're trying to build towards something, or maybe they just need a bit of self-belief going into something. I think that's the one thing I think is that I've found with the most of the people who resonate with my content is people who maybe need a little bit more self-esteem. And it always got to come down to that, because again, I think it's maybe something I struggled with when I was a kid, is a lack of self-esteem, and that's something that obviously I don't particularly struggle with now at all. I have an absolute belief in myself and my work rate and my efforts, but I fear that that's what a lot of people do struggle with. And I think people have got incredible capacities to do such amazing things, but it has to start with that belief in yourself.
It's that whole thing of out there, someone is probably has the potential of breaking the 2-hour marathon, or the potential of running faster than Usain Bolt in 100 meters. But it's finding those people who have that belief in themselves and that almost that delusion to be able to do it. And I think social media is a blessing and a curse in so many ways, because people with the lower self-esteem will look at it and compare themselves in a negative light, when in fact you should be using it as like that person once was probably like me. I need to think I can, even if it's not doing this, like I'm not talking about gaining hundreds of thousands of followers. I'm talking about setting yourself a goal of doing a marathon. I remember when I did Manchester in 2024, I had never even considered doing a marathon until like the January of that year. And even then, that's pretty late on with marathon season. It's not like I planned it way before. I remember entering it in February, and in that sense, I was like, oh my God, this is going to be like the best thing ever, because it's going to push me. I'm going to feel like a different person. It's going to give me a kind of a plan that's going to give me an end result. And I remember thinking to myself, that was the everything. That was my kind of process. That was my line of thinking. Whereas now people on social media are scrolling. They're seeing people run 100 milers. They're seeing people run across countries. They're seeing people do sub 14-minute 5Ks, and they're comparing that to their own achievement, where they are in that moment of their life. And I almost think sometimes we need to touch grass and just remember that this is just such a small little echo chamber. I had a lad message me earlier saying, Cal, help me out, I'm a big runner. His words were, I'm an overweight runner, like what do you advise? And I was like, mate, all I advise is comparison's the thief of joy, so don't compare yourself. That is ultimately the most poisonous thing to any progression, is to thinking that you're not doing as well because you've seen someone else do something.
100%. I think the other thing as well was like, people look at what other people get up to, and they see the one thing that they've got, that they go, oh fucking this person's doing this, rather than looking at the overall picture. The person that can run the sub 2:15 marathon has their life is built around that, or the person that is 7% body fat, their life is built around that. We like the result, but we don't like the work often associated with it. And as you get a bit older, and this does come with age and does come with wisdom when it comes to it, you then go, wow, this person's got this. And it goes, yeah, but that person has paid a significant price for that thing. I think that's one of the things. That's why I always try and show the process. I very rarely will lean on the outcome, going like, oh, look how far I ran during this ultramarathon, or look at what the thing goes. Let me show you the process, because first of all, that's the most valuable thing. The outcome is just at the end of it all there. This is what it took me. This is what it cost me. This is the work I had to put into it. This is everything to it there, because I think that gives people a bit more of a realistic standard.
Yeah.
That's what I love. That's why I think the beautiful thing about social media is those that show the work rate. So I like Hugo's stuff so much. He's showing you the day in, day out of everything he's doing. He's showing these mental, the amount of effort he puts into it all then. Yes, he'll show the sub 30-minute 10Ks. And wow, incredible. But he's showing the process of getting there. It's not just this year, it's the years and years and years, stacking.
Sure.
Also shows what he can't do in the same time as well. Like by doing that, he can't go and do this. He's not exactly going to spend 4 or 5 hours in the gym building, getting jacked. Can't afford to do that because he's going to slow him down. Like there's, everything has a price. And I think people the most important thing is when we feel ourselves comparing ourselves with the people, is understanding that anyone who's exceeded anything, they're paid a price for that success.
Yeah.
And actually, rather than looking outward, look inward. Well, what are the things you have in your life that money can't buy? The things that really matter to you, things that are really wonderful. Because again, that stuff that is the things that really do matter. It's in our human nature to be, not say envious, but like to compare ourselves to other people. That's how we as civilizations has developed over 100,000 of years. Typically speaking, go back. I was reading this the other day, again, history book.
Love it, man. Keep it coming.
Even like a few hundred years ago, the average person before, what was this? Throughout most of human civilization, the average person would meet 150 different people in their lifetime. So actually, you comparing yourself to other people is a really good measurement, because it's ingrained in us. It's in all humans to compare ourselves to other people. That's just how we operate now, because you would look amongst your tribe or look amongst around then going, that's the standard. oh, okay, this person's able to do this or hunt this or do this. That's where I need to get myself to. And that has worked for hundreds of thousands of years of human development. And there's a reason why we all feel this. The problem is, in the last few hundred years, and now very recently, you open up your phone and you're bombarded with the best people in the world at everything. That is going to make you feel bad. So I think the really important thing is to understand is like who you compare yourself to. There's nothing wrong with comparing yourself to people, because actually sometimes that can hold you account when it comes to certain standards. What really matters is who are you comparing yourself to, and understanding that you should never be comparing yourself to the best people at the world at anything, because first of all, it's going to make you feel crap about your own work and own achievements and own whatever it is. But also, if someone's the best at the world at something, there's something like they only do that. They don't do anything else. You can't be the best, if you're the best,
You can't be a sub 40-minute 5K-er if you're someone who is actually, you probably can, because I'm not going to say that. I'm going to get fucking stick.
No, you'll get stick. We can't use running analogies there, because the running kinos will probably jump on the channel and complain again. But no, anyone who's obsessively great at anything, there is going to be massive draws all over all throughout the rest of their life. There's going to be massive areas of their life they're not highly competent at or successful at, because they just don't care. They care
and also
about one
they're
thing.
just building towards that one thing.
Building towards that one thing, and that's it. Like that's why people talk about like Michael Jordan being a bit of an arsehole at everything else. People talk negatively about most of the people's experience with him, because people were saying like, yeah, he's just a shitty person, poor crap friend, this and that. Go best of all time basketball player, but all these other areas terrible at. And again, that's what happens. So again, it's the dangerous thing is, especially through social media, and this is where again social media is a wonderful tool, great source of inspiration, lots of things, but you have to also be careful with it, is you should not be exposing yourself constantly to, and then comparing yourself to the best people at the world at all these things. So we'll build these other weird mental models in our head being like, oh, they're so good at this, they must be good at everything. No, they're great at this one thing, and that's why they're the best at that. And again, like that comes with massive drawbacks in other areas of life. So again, it just comes down to, that's why peer groups are really important. Across your friend group, a level of comparison is absolutely fine there. Same way, if all of your friends all of a sudden start growing up and maybe, start to save their money a little bit, you go, actually, I probably should start doing that. That's a really healthy comparison.
For sure.
If you're blowing your salary every month, going out, getting pissed up, all these sort of things, not saying not a bad thing once in a while, but if all your friends all of a sudden say, hey, I'm going to start saving 20% of what I'm earning, or hey, I'm going to start saving up towards a house, or hey, I'm actually going to start taking a bit of money, investing in the market, you eventually go, oh, all my mates are doing this thing. Yeah, you know what? If I don't want to be the one not, or that's actually a pretty good standard to have. Or maybe, all your mates start, when you get to, say, anyone who's listened to this, like 17, 18, 19, say some of your friends start getting into relationships, you go, actually, no, it's probably not a bad idea. Maybe I should probably start thinking about getting myself into that one there, or whatever that could be. Or maybe even those want to take their careers a bit more seriously, and their friends in their age group they've gone to university with all start going, I'm actually going to start, I might go for an internship, or I might actually start thinking now about the future. That's a good way to look at your life and actually compare yourself to other people. That's a healthy way to do it, because again, it's in us. We're going to feel comparisons. We naturally do. Who we choose to compare ourselves to is the important standard with that, because again, it's human nature to compare ourselves to other people. The thing is, what you don't want to be doing is comparing yourselves to people A, you don't really know on social media, B, are people who are obsessed with what they're doing. That's why they are so good at what they're doing. But also they're going to have many, many flaws in their lives. So again, no one's perfect, but if you're unbelievably gifted in fucking some one really niche specific area, the chances are all the other parts of your life are probably not going to be,
thriving. Tickety boo.
Yeah.
Really interesting one here, actually. Do you think social media has played a part in making people lazier as well? Because the reason I say this is I've met people who have this almost sense of entitlement about life owing them something, because they've seen other people essentially successful in their own right in different areas, but they've read success on social media as they're lucky, why don't I have this, rather than, oh, they've worked hard to put themselves in that position to be successful in that field. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I think because the nature of social media, you have such a small glimpse into what people are doing or what people are up to. It shows such an incomplete picture. So there's always going to be a bias towards people who are successful through social media, because you're not seeing the work, you're not seeing the price they're paying for it. There is an element of that. That's why, and again, like, so people on social media and influencers are an easy target for all that stuff, because it goes like some of the hardest working people I know are people on social media. When I was in financial tech, I'd work a lot of weekends just for the nature of the work I was doing. If we're putting a deal together, whatever it was, like I would be sometimes be either 3 or 4 in the morning in the office, and it was hard work and it was graft, and I was really, really focused on what I was doing. But I still could switch off. I could still go on holiday. I could still do this stuff here. Whereas now, especially with, I've got staff I've employed, I've got multiple channels we're going through here, I've got businesses that we've either invested into or we're starting up at the moment. There is so much to think about on an every-going basis, not to mention trying to do all the other stuff with the training. Well, this is I'd say this is probably the hardest I've ever worked.
Yeah.
And everyone I know who's really bloody good at it are unbelievably hard workers. The thing is, you just see the outcomes. You don't see the videos you tried to... what most people see on social media is the videos that made the cut or the end bit or whatever it is there. You don't see is the 3 or 4 attempted versions of that video that you just thought weren't good enough, so you didn't release it. The hours it took to ideate those videos and work through those videos and think, does this one work here, does it work not? You just see a snapshot into these things here. Not to say that all people in social media aren't hard, there are people probably in social media who aren't very hard working. They just, boom, have an internet ability, pull the camera out and post whatever it is there. But everyone I know who's not just been successful, but then maintained success and kept on growing, or has managed to not be like a bit of a flash in the pan because they've made one funny format and then that's died off and whatever it is. Those that have actually built something, a career out of it and a sustainability from it, the work rate involved is insane.
Yeah. It's that whole fear of what if one week I just don't have this anymore. And it's almost like that fear sometimes does drive.
I've never had that fear, but now you mention it, I'm like, oh, brother.
No,
I get
it's more just sort of like, am I just the moment? Not necessarily you and I, but that feeling of, are you just a moment in the social space, or are you building something long term? It's why I love this podcast, mate, because for me, it's long term. It's my long term goal, Well,
that's really what I want to look at. I think that's actually important. I think it really does depend how you came about into social media matters, because again, it's not just being known for one thing. I think because that sort of the ebbs and flows of trends and what's popular, what's not popular. That's why I try and actually make less about running content now. I've always managed to balance running with other areas of my life or other things I'm trying to work towards. But the overall message is never running. It's in self-improvement. It's in creating things or doing things to believe in oneself. That's the important factor to it. But I also think as well, it's... Oh, there's a line I was going to have there. That's so good. Okay, here's one for you there. It's never been more easy to be lazy, but it's also never been more easy to be successful, because with the tools of social media, there's so much opportunity everywhere. At the same time, there's so many more distractions everywhere as well. So you do have to be really clear with this kind of stuff. And again, those that are succeeding at such a level that's so clear. And then again, you could also... you can spend 8 hours on social media and not make anything and just watch and consume, or you can spend 8 hours pulling together videos, filming stuff, editing stuff, working through it, practicing, saying things over, sound engineering, reshooting things. It's how you choose to spend your time on it. And what are you learning? When you're watching videos, you're going, okay, why did this one do quite well? Okay, I wonder why he introduced his video this way, or maybe he said this line here, or how he delivered this line here. What does this make me feel? And again, whenever I scroll and I come across a video that's made me feel something, I go, fuck, why did I feel this way about this video? What happened there? Okay, let's watch this video back and try and understand it. And again, how are you digesting the information there? But again, the problem is, as the algorithms get smarter and better, this thing interesting I learned the other day. Sorry, I'll finish that point. No, as the algorithms get smarter and better, it's so much more attention focused, and how I'm looking for. As the algorithms over time, and especially in short form media, improve and get better, it's just going to keep pushing more stimulating content. And I think my worry is it removes, and there's not much of it now anyway, it removes even another layer of nuance around most topics. And it just
nuance does not exist now on socials.
Yeah. Exactly that. And again, I think that's a really important thing, because most things are nuanced. Most things are in that grey area.
How many times have you gone to make a video and cut out a sentence of a voiceover or speaking to camera that you're like, that's not needed? And then you think about it, you're like, that is very much needed.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to put it in the caption in case anyone asks. So I'll be like, right, read the caption, because that's what I wanted to say in the video. But the problem is, I know that 5 seconds you're going to switch off because it's probably not that interesting, but it's needed for the video. Yeah. It's so frustrating, man.
100%. I mean, that's why I'm much bigger on YouTube now, because that for me, is not only a more enjoyable process, it's also it gives you more space and it gives you more time and it gives you more opportunity to add a level of nuance to it. You're not having to be overstimulating. You're not having to be, thrown up in your face there. I worry that in time that will eventually get to that point as well. Because you look at the most successful people on YouTube, it's so overstimulated, it's so over. But I think there's a massive space still on YouTube for people who don't want to just be jolted with.
Well, one of the most successful YouTubers in the last 10 years, Outdoor Boys. And it's like beautiful. The videos are so pure and long and everything's so long-winded and you're there, you're locked in. Like 100%. I'd love to know his retentions because for me, I always watch a whole video of his. And I feel like my vlogs on YouTube were kind of similar. Like I'd look at my retention, there's always people watching for at least 50%. Yeah. And it's just because it's a 30-minute video about my running week. Like it's not even, or just what I'm up to. And it's because people that click onto it, they actually just like fancy watching about your life.
100%. I think as well, especially when you create that space for nuance and reflection and calmness. I think that's the most important thing is creating a space of calm because again, a lot of shit in the world right now is not very calm. And I think when you turn the news on and you turn most social media on, you're bombarded with the negativity. Because again, like negativity spreads faster than positive. Negative things happen very quickly, positive things happen over time. So again, I think it's quite important to, especially if you have a positive message, is to allow that space. And that's why I've been enjoying YouTube. I can't explain to you how many times I've gone to make the last few weeks doing voiceovers for certain videos on Instagram or TikTok. And I'm just like, oh my God, I'll do it. And I'm like, it's almost not sharp enough or it's almost not, I have to cut this and I cut this. And I'm like, then I'm almost a bit like, oh, what's the fucking point of this video?
Yeah.
Whereas I didn't used to feel like that. A couple of years ago, it wasn't like that. One thing I was going to say was why this big change has happened is not because the algorithm has changed, because the chips have changed. So remember when Mark Zuckerberg a few years ago, Meta, they were like, we're now going all in the metaverse.
Okay, yeah.
They invested like $10 billion a quarter on building the metaverse. Not sure about you. I don't fucking go to the metaverse. I don't put on a VR headset and go, walk around like I'm in Habbo Hotel. Like I just, no, because the idea of sitting in buying real estate in the virtual, no. But in order for them to do that, they invested $10 billion per quarter into the metaverse. What they did was they bought up all the chips that were required at the time by NVIDIA that have required the processing power to create the metaverse. When they realized that no one was going to fucking use the metaverse, they then turned those chips towards the algorithm. So now that's why now it's so much more based on not who follows you, but based on the interest of your videos. So that requires such a massive amount of computing power. And that's why Instagram, because the TikTok has always been what you're interested in rather than who you follow. I follow, there's the old saying on TikTok, if you don't want to see someone's videos again, follow them because they're going to stop showing them to you.
Yeah, it's so true.
Whereas on Instagram, it's always been, if you follow this person, you're going to see more of their content. You're going to see more of their media. And that has shifted a lot the last year where you could start, and this is pros and cons. If you're a new creator, you don't need followers. You make a great video, loads of people are going to see it. What a wonderful thing. That is such a wonderful, that makes that jump of, oh God, I need to spend years and years and years building an audience for then my videos to do well. Because I've seen people, their first video do hundreds of thousands of views because it's now much more interest-based. In order for the algorithm to be able to process that much data information, they needed such a high amount of computing power, and they got that from all the chips they bought when they tried to make the metaverse. And I think at the peak there was 60 people in Facebook's metaverse. Like that's how little people used it, but they pivoted, and that's why now you have such a powerful machine of an algorithm that Instagram have developed there. And again, whether that's right or that's wrong, it's just a case of you have to be very clear in your videos of what the video's about, who it's for, or what it's interested in.
Yeah. Fun little fact about NVIDIA, who make the chips. Yeah. My manager, he's like really into his trading and stuff. Yeah. He was telling me how he's got some bits in NVIDIA and stuff like that. But like, I assume nothing crazy because I don't know why he'd be managing me otherwise. But he said to me that one day, the market value of NVIDIA jumped the entire market value of McDonald's. Yeah. So McDonald's is worth 200 billion, I believe. Yeah. Around that. NVIDIA's stock jumped 200 billion in a single day. Yeah. They're an Asian company, aren't they?
They're an Asian company, based out of Taiwan.
Okay,
NVIDIA.
cool.
One of the most important companies at the moment because they develop all the chips. And again, these are the chips that for like military computing hardware are so vitally important. And that's why, the US is like, they just passed us at the the Chip Something Act. What am I talking about this? The US recently passed like the bill under Biden, which was basically like to move a lot of the production of chip manufacturing from Taiwan to the US for security reasons because of how vitally important it is for the economy and military to have those chips in there.
Surely Taiwan now can probably become one of the richest nations in the world based off this.
They're incredibly wealthy, but the problem is you've got China who are just parked right next to them, who, because of the fact that China was what the Taiwanese government was the original government of China as well, and then when you had the revolution in China, they pushed the government of China out to Taiwan, but then they're like, we're not complete till we have Taiwan, and then the government in Taiwan, which is the original Chinese government, are like, fuck. So yeah, that's then China believes in this unification of China and taking Taiwan, but also Taiwan is a couple hundred miles off the coast of China, really, really hard. But yeah, this is big global politics working in there. I try not to worry about these things too much because I can't have too much control over it.
No,
I can just control how many runs I do in the week. And,
So obviously a big part of your year ahead, as we said, is the last man standing race.
Yeah.
Talk to me about your training, because I watched your YouTube video with Tommy, your coach. Yep. I want to hear how it looks, because you're separating up into blocks. So what do those blocks consist of? Every
4 weeks is another block. So that's when we have, after every fourth week, we have a deload week.
Yep.
Pull the volume right down 40%. And we just build up. So 3 weeks of build, pull back. At the end of each of those 3 weeks, we do a simulation.
Okay.
It's basically simulating the race. The race, those you don't know, BPNs, Go One More Ultramarathon. It's a backyard ultramarathon where you run 6.7 kilometers on the hour, every hour. The race continues until there's only one person remaining. That can go on for however long it goes on for. Last year, nearly 3 days until a storm came in and they had to call the race with only 2 people left. So with training for this sort of stuff, how do you train for a race where you don't know the distance you're going to be running? You basically just have to make yourself very durable. Durability is the most important thing. At no point during this race do you run fast. Like, that's the thing. Like, it doesn't matter how quick your 5K is. You just have to be back in time. And you can the reason they do 6.7K or 4.2 miles is it's just far enough that you can't walk it in an hour.
Okay.
But there's some of the laps last year, I'd coming in at 50 or something minutes and like, I ran a tiny bit very slowly. I walked a fair bit of it just on the recovery laps. Obviously, the quicker you come in, the longer rest period you've got. Very important. How do you train something like that? At the moment, we're not doing about 80 kilometers a week of 2 speed sessions. Rest, very easy miles. Consistency is the most important part. So running every day. I've ran every day this year. I'm basically running every day until on there. Even on my recovery days or rest days, I'm still doing at least 5-6K. And then very specific simulations every few weeks. So we basically simulate the race. We run 6.7K on the hour, every hour, and then practice fueling, nutritions, how I'm feeling, what's going wrong, how the body's doing, sleep deprivation. You can't train sleep deprivation, but you can learn the skills to manage it accordingly. So how can you fall asleep for 5 minutes? And then also, when those 5 minutes are up and your alarm goes off and you wake up and you have to go run again, what's the thought process? Like, how do you deal with that? So again, practicing the ability to fall asleep quickly. So how does that look like? What's the position going to be? What do I want? Do I want to use eye mask? Do I want my feet up in the air? Do I want to be laying flat? How am I going to do that? And then to go into the next round. So that's what we need to practice simulating. So that by the time I get to Texas, I think the biggest simulation I'll do, I wouldn't mind doing like a 20-hour simulation beforehand. So that would be 120 something kilometers.
And when you say you're sleeping during those bits, where are you going to be sleeping? In your own gaff?
I'll do it in my house, but I won't do it in my actual bed because that'll be far too comfy to get out of. I will literally, I'll do it on like a small like camp bed style or even just on the floor with a pillow under my neck and just get used to that. And it's also just those sorts of things build the mental toughness to do well in these events. Realistically, there's only so much running you can do in training. There's only so much fitness you can gain in training. The most important part of the training is the mental resilience it builds and the belief in yourself. I always say, when you go into any training block, you should be a bit nervous about the goals you set for yourself. That's a good sign. It means you care about what's going on. You shouldn't be going into it being confident. Confident comes after. Confidence comes from the work that you do. You take action, then you become confident. You don't take action because you're confident. Mm-hmm. You should feel a bit nervous. You should set the goal that scares you. And in my case, going as far as I can go, scary prospect.
Yeah.
Exciting, don't get me wrong, very exciting. At any time in life you have an opportunity to push yourself to an absolute limit to see how far you can go is an absolute privilege. Because guess what? Those opportunities in life don't come very often.
Yeah.
Where you can say, hey, I'm going to give this everything I fucking got, and whatever happens, happens. But I know one thing, I will go until I cannot go anymore. And wherever that is, I'll be proud of that. That's a really special thing to be able to do.
To be able to stand the start line and go, I have done absolutely everything in my power to be good here.
100%.
Is a really nice feel. I had that in Paris. I remember standing on the start line. I was like, I literally can't do any more.
Yeah.
And I feel like whatever will be, will be. And it was great.
So, you know, that's it. And I think that's the most important thing. So training for that is, at the moment, 80K running, 4 or 5 hours on the bike. And then at the moment, 4 very specific gym sessions. Like my training program, my S&C coach, Harvey Lawton, coached me through a whole bunch of stuff there. It's so niche and specific what he's got me doing. I'm in a commercial gym doing some of the most ridiculous exercises. Obviously, I don't really care too much what I'm doing there, but it's quite funny because I'm like looking around, everyone's doing the standard stuff there, and he's got me doing all sorts of mental things. I'm like, I wouldn't mind just doing a bit of bench. There's a 0 bench press program there. I mean, I throw it in, but it's much more around, again, like areas that we found as potential weaknesses in the whole chain of running muscles or running joints. And again, it's building protection, stability around those areas. Because again, this is not a race about speed. This is a race about enduring. How far can you endure?
Yeah.
Your body, your mind. They're the 2 things they've got to endure. The mind side comes after the more work you put in with the body, but also doing it in a way that you don't burn yourself out. So I need to be making sure I'm eating enough, but not too much that I'm gaining weight.
What do you eat a day?
5,000 calories at the moment. Sometimes putting up on the simulation days or the big double training days. Well, every day's double training, but like on the, say I've got like a 30K run in the morning and then a bike session in the evening for an hour or a lift later that day, they will be, obviously that calorie is going up there.
Are you a meal prep man or do you cook everything
I cook.
fresh?
I love cooking.
Yeah?
Cooking, yeah, absolutely.
What's your typical day of eating then? I want to hear these meals.
I'm filming that for YouTube tomorrow.
Well, it'll be out then. Well, no, it won't.
Potentially, see how it's faster. I'll do full protein oats in the morning with blueberries, banana, coffee. I'll then I'd usually bang down some G1M, like electrolyte powder stuff before run. If it's a longer run, I'll obviously have gels with me then. Come back in, I'll usually have like spicy ground beef I make with a whole myriad of vegetables, sweet potato or normal potatoes, and then dinners will usually be some sort of similar to that, but high protein, high carbs, loads of vegetables in there as well to keep me healthy. But I track everything as well on MyFitnessPal.
Nice.
Not because I'm trying to lose, but just because I want to make sure I'm eating enough.
You're right, yeah.
Because some days I'll need to be taking on board like 800 to 1,000 grams of carbohydrates. If I don't track it, I don't eat enough, and then I wake up the next day and I'm like, why do I feel so exhausted? It's because I just didn't eat. I didn't replenish enough from the day before. So tracking is really important in this, because when I'm trying to get a bit leaner during times where I'm not really training too hard, I will track to make sure I'm in a deficit. I'm actually tracking to make sure I'm not in a deficit right now, to make sure that I actually am getting enough food in, hit my protein target to recover properly. Because it's all well and good doing all this training, all this work. If A, your sleep's not very good, and B, you're not eating enough food, your body's not really recovering from it. It's really, really important to do that. But also, it's really hard to eyeball it. If I just ate anything I wanted to, going, I'm running fucking 30K a day and doing this, whatever it is there. If I ate based on my hunger, I would gain loads of weight because I could just keep eating shit.
I'd be like you, mate.
Yeah, I'd just crack on there. And then all of a sudden I'm like, doing this training and I'm looking a bit spongy.
Yeah, and also it affects your sleep as well. If you're eating shit, like you don't wear a Whoop, do you? But I assume do you track recovery for other ways or not really?
Yeah, 8 sleep.
Yeah,
bed. Yeah,
perfect. Yeah, like for me, I always notice my recovery is just so much better when I'm just thoughtful about my meals. Like all it takes, and the timing of them in the evenings as well.
100%.
Obviously, you mentioned I messaged you before the pod, basically talking about this 2016 trend I've been seeing. Have you seen this?
I absolutely love it, because the 2016 was the most mental, disturbingly terrible year. So many weird things happened that year. Most people look at what I did in 2016 and be like, that's not the same bloke as is here.
No, I love that, because you posted a video last year as well of you squirting like a lime into your eye or something, basically showing how your disciplines changed over time.
See, the thing is, I would see myself as being quite a disciplined person back then, because I would work so bloody hard, but when I would drink, I would send it so much harder than everyone else.
Yeah.
I would just do things to the maximum. So when that video you're quoting, I was basically doing tequila suicide, and we would do them all the time, me and my friends, where we would, like, whoever lost scissors, you've got to do lemon in the eye, sniff the salt, shoot the tequila and bang your head on the table.
I mean, this is so daft, isn't it?
I left the sniffing of the salt out of that video because I was like, I don't want people to think I'm doing something else.
But no, so I asked you obviously before the pod, I said, right, have a think of what happened to you in 2016 because I want us to do a podcast version of this nostalgia trend. For me, I'll start off. I was always quite a safe kid, I would say, but 2016 was my first year of uni, so you can imagine it was just a bit feral. However, 2016 for you was a bit of a mental one because you were traveling a fair bit.
I had a fair bit of travel. I had some travel to work in America, but also I had travel to Cambodia with the boys. And I picked up a really bad infection. And it was probably the most disturbing thing. I've never told anyone the story because of how weird and bad this is. I've never shared this on social media.
Okay, go on then.
I'll show you a picture.
Okay, right. So before you show me this picture, can you give me context as to what you're about to show me?
So when my last few days in Cambodia, I was in one of the islands, I think Koh Rong, one of the places around there. Cool little spot, great for diving, great for partying. And I was walking around this place barefoot as you do, because, you're out there. Cambodia, not known for its most sanitary of conditions. And I got like a very itchy foot.
Okay.
I thought, well, foot's a bit itchy, could be a bit of heat rash, whatever. Anyway, long story short, last few days there, I noticed my foot was getting itchy, so I was itchy with the other foot. Next thing you know, I head back to, at the time I was living in Madrid with my girlfriend, got back to Madrid, and I was like, my feet are on fire. Hadn't seen her in 2 weeks, so book into a hotel, romantic. And while we're in there, she's a doctor, so just finished her medical studies. She's
Helpful,
like, I'll have a look at your feet because they're really itchy, really itchy. She screams at what she saw.
Wait, so you hadn't looked at your feet?
I thought I had a rash because it was also the underside. How often do you ever look at the bottom of your feet?
Oh, I don't know. If I've got a bad itch, I'll probably go stick it up to a mirror or something.
I just thought I had itchy feet. I don't know what was going on about that. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I was hanging up my ass from the whole trip.
I also have extreme health anxiety.
I don't really worry too much about that.
No.
Anyway, long story short, turns out I had worms under my skin. Basically, what? Yeah.
It's just like crawling around.
I could feel it moving and everything. Yeah, it was horrible.
That was the itch.
Yeah. So basically, what happened is in Cambodia, I had stepped on the beach, and these apparently they move through there's loads of stray dogs around everywhere, and basically, long story short, they attached to the skin, and basically, when they were hatching, what I was doing was rubbing one foot on the other and spreading them round. So basically, both feet on the underside and around my toes. And then I should show the picture, mate, because it's fucking.
Wait, how'd you get rid of that?
So I show her, obviously midway through a romantic evening in the hotel, she's like, we're going to the hospital now. So we go to the hospital.
Is this in Madrid?
Yeah, doctors are like, let's have a look. We've seen it. The doctor's also like, we've seen everything before. There's no need to be embarrassed about this. We've seen everything. Doctor looks at me and goes, I've never seen this before. I'm like, oh, fucking great. It's because they were... Wait, when did I message you? Because I screenshotted them all.
And then I told you to delete that before I see it because I want to react to it on the pod.
So, yeah. So,
mate, it looks like a map.
Yeah, it does look like a map. So basically...
Can I put that on screen?
Yeah, you can put that on screen. So basically, this is...
There'll be a trigger warning, by the way, because there's 3, 2, 1...
There's more. Wait, do you want me to show you on the camera?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Show me more. No, I'll put it up on screen.
Oh,
That's
okay.
what I'm saying.
Show the thing
3,
there.
2, 1.
Okay. And there's more. Don't worry.
Go on,
that's on the top side of it there. So they basically are tracking round, and basically they started off as little dots.
Okay.
That's what they had. Once they've hatched,
it looks like
they then start sliding through and moving around. Because I was lying there being like, these are so fucking itchy, but I also didn't want to ruin a lovely weekend in a hotel with my missus. So I was playing it cool, but she was like, what the fuck is wrong with your feet? And I was like, I don't know, showed her, and she was like, we're going to the hospital now, what the fuck? Because she could see them moving a little bit, and they were slowly navigating.
So the red lines in the picture, that is the worm.
Worms, there's loads of them.
Okay, so that is the worms, or is that the trail that they've left?
That's a bit of both. So where at the top point, where you can see, that's the tracking of them there. They stay under the skins. That's the head of it there because it's basically moved around. They don't grow that length, but that's the passage they've made through there.
Mate, that is absolutely vile.
I think I got one more in there as well. That's where it started from. So at the start, I look at it and I'm like, that's just like a heat rash almost. But then they start mapping into other things because it started with just dots. See how there's 3 dots there?
Yeah.
See, that's actually 3 eggs. And basically what happened, once they hatch, they then just start crawling around. So I go to the hospital, Spanish doctor. is like freaking out. He's taking photos of it and his WhatsApp, sending it to doctor mates, being like, what the hell is this?
No, he's sending it to his boys, mate.
Yeah, 100% there. And anyway, long story short, thankfully, obviously Mrs. She was doctor, so she was like quite like good at keeping calm and composed under pressure. I'm not. I'm like, there's fucking worms on my skin. They gave me like a sedative because it was that like itchy, and they got a medication from another hospital sent over that could deal with this kind of issue, because they also like through their doctory network. I don't know how doctors work. Did
they cut you open at all?
No, not at all. I did at one point because I was like, what the fuck's going on? Because it was so itchy. I before we went to the hospital, I was trying to like cut them out. I was like, this is one, I want to get rid of them. And she's like, they'll be really small. It's just that they're leaving a long like tracing thing. Yeah, long story short, that was fucking painful. But yeah, that was 2016. The year I got wormy foot, and to this day, to this day, like,
have you got any scarring from it?
No, not at all. I mean, my feet aren't exactly, I'm not selling pics on OnlyFans of them, but they're a bit battered from running.
There's a market for everything.
But no, it was pretty damn vile. So lesson learned: if you go to Cambodia, wear shoes on the beach.
Fucking hell. I do think that sort of stuff makes me like shiver a bit. Have you what's that thing? Is it trypophobia? Have you seen that?
No, what's that?
It's that fear of like small holes close together.
Oh, okay, yeah, I know what you mean about that. Yeah.
It's really odd.
I don't like that. You know, when I see that sort of stuff, it's a bit like comes like the surface of a moon sort of thing, where they drop down a bit. Like it's a bit like
there's particular images of trypophobia that are really triggering.
Let me see if I can get some more
trypophobia.
If I go back to 2016 again, I reckon I can do.
Yeah, mate, that's vile.
Yeah, I know what you exactly mean.
Like, especially when they superimpose it onto people's fingers and stuff. That's disgusting.
I've even got more.
Any other mad shit happen?
This is like when it started. That was one of the foots where this is at the start, because I was like,
so it's like a really squiggly red line.
Yeah, and at the start it would just start with like dot there, dot there, dot there. So at the start I'm just like, I've got a bit of heat rash.
Yeah.
I know, but then when they start growing into more and more, is that one? Obviously, I'm not the best at taking pictures.
Yeah, you were destined for life and content here.
Brilliant trip, though. I had a great old time.
Oh, God, you were skin and bones, mate.
Am I?
From that picture.
I'm still not.
Nah, you're all right. Sorry. You look a bit like Thomas Muller there.
Thank you, I'll take that.
Yeah.
I get Kieran Trippier a lot for some reason.
Really?
Honestly, I did a video a couple of years ago on TikTok, and all I was getting was, you like Kieran Trippier. I was like,
yeah. All right, so obviously, Johnny, you've been in the game, in the ultra space for some time now. It's probably adapted and changed quite a bit since you've been in it. What are some of your observations that you've seen over the previous years, and also your kind of thoughts for the future of it? Because there are so many people now coming into it, doing these things and, doing challenges and making that their whole identity. You, for me, were one of the first. You and kind of, obviously, Russ as well, were kind of the first people that I saw on social media going about doing these batshit mental things. But there's been so many other people come into the frame. How do you see the space changing over time?
I think it's fantastic. I mean, first of all, before Russ, there's been people doing this for so long.
For sure.
Like 100%. Like,
just saying when it got onto my radar.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I've always been drawn to and impressed by people who've done these crazy feats of endurance. Mark Beaumont managed Cycle the World solo in like 2007, 2008. Fantastic book, by the way. Great ultra endurance cyclist. There's people who always inspired me. What's going on now? I think it's fantastic. I think I absolutely love seeing people who have a genuine why and a genuine cause and a genuine reason to go out and do something that matters like that. And I think that's the one thing that my advice to anyone doing, because a lot of people who want to go do a big challenge, they'll come to me and ask me advice. I think it's I feel really blessed if people want to come seek out my expertise in niche running challenges. I think I always say the most important thing is why you're doing it. Mm-hmm. You don't ever position it from a standpoint of how will this look on camera or what will the content be, because fuck all that. The thing that matters is, why do you want to go and do that? What is it that's in here that you want to find a release for and share with the world? I think the beautiful thing about running challenges is, and this is why they're always around this, because they do get eyeballs and they do get attention. You shouldn't do it for the eyeballs, the attention. You should do it because it gives you an opportunity to do something with that attention. Mm-hmm. If all you want to do with that attention is go, I'm pretty fucking good at this, I'm not that interested in that. And I think most people aren't that interested in that. if with those eyeballs and that attention, you say, hey, I'm doing it for this cause, or there is this reason, or I want people to feel this thing, or I want to have that in there as well. Because if you do some ridiculous run challenge, fucking flowers to you, man. Like that, this ain't easy. It's hard. It's really, really hard. It's hard to train for. It's hard to do. And anyone who's doing a big thing, whether or not, my person, it doesn't really matter. What matters is they know why they're doing it. And with that moment they get with attention, what do you choose to do with that? And that'll tell you everything about that sort of person. What is the cause they're doing it for? Who are they trying to reach? Who are they trying to touch with that? And that really, really matters. Like remember when I've seen people do some of the most incredible endurance feats, and they tell their story and they talk about why they're doing it, and there's a connection to it there. And there's something in there that they feel that they might not be able to express to themselves, but it's driven them to do something. And then through that act of pushing themselves, they then understand it better and they get it. And I think that for me is always like the most important part to it. That's from the challenge space. From the race space, I think it's really interesting, because what you've got now is lots of people who were great marathon runners who are now looking at the ultramarathon space and going, I could actually do that. And so all of a sudden you've got world records being broken. The 100-kilometer world record recently broken. I think it was unofficial. The one that Adidas did is an unofficial one because it was how it was tracked, everything there. But you've got guys breaking course records. All the big 100-milers now at the moment. Even the 200-mile course records are getting broken constantly. You got Tom Evans absolutely killing it at UTMB last year. It's really, and it's also becoming a really exciting space because it's such a beautiful sport, because again it's at its rawest form, covering a ridiculous distance, usually over gorgeous mountains and a phenomenal scenery, and it almost taps into that spirit of adventure. The reason why I was always drawn into it is because for me it feels like I'm in Lord of the Rings. If I'm going to go run over a couple of mountains for over a 24-hour period, I do feel like I'm back into things at nature. I feel I'm it's a very simple skill and activity. And also, especially when you're quite reliant on yourself in those situations, you're relying on yourself to eat, sleep, to consume, cover those distances for your own safety to a degree. I think there's something so beautifully human about that. I think whereas marathons, 5Ks, all these sort of things, they do feel a bit more safe, organised, streets are closed, that kind of stuff there. Marathons are generally done in a city, which is a cool experience to do. Not saying anything wrong with that. Whereas I think the beautiful thing about the ultra stuff is it's not about the distance. It's about, it's an incredible journey you must take from when you sign up to the start line. And then it's also an incredibly beautiful journey of self-discovery and, where you learn about yourself, and a physical journey through whatever train you're doing to get to that finish line. And it is such an emotional one as well. As much as these things are physically hard, I think I've always found marathons, I've never been particularly emotional with a marathon because I ain't got the energy to be. I'm so focused on like one foot. Okay, this is fun. Okay, now I'm in pain. Okay, this is shit. Okay, it's over. That's kind of average marathon experience for me anyway. Whereas with an ultra marathon, 50 mile, could be, so 50K, 50 mile, 100 miler, it is a fucking journey. It is a roller coaster of emotions, and you are never the same person at the end than you were at the start. And you've passed through whatever it is, and there's a really beautiful connection you have with yourself at the end of these journeys, because you spend so much time in your own head doubting yourself. You pull up the fears, you pull up the doubts. And I always find it's super interesting. I remember a couple of years ago, I did this 50-mile mountain race in America, and it was a couple months after my cousin had passed away. And I'd find it really difficult after he passed. And I remember I was very, very upset at his funeral. But then after, I was struggling to understand my emotions around it. Like, I hadn't really lost anyone before that.
Is that also as well, do you think the struggling to understand the emotions thing linked back to, your childhood and everything was very regimented, very strict? Did you have an emotive childhood, would you say?
Oh yeah, I was a proper emotional kid. I cried a lot.
Yeah.
And then I didn't for like 10 years after that. But and even to this day, I don't really cry. I do when I'm upset about, funerals, yeah. Like I remember my cousin passed, and my uncle.
Was he quite young?
No, this is his 40s, but he was still pretty young for
40s is young.
But but it was the things like that really get me. Anything else, like I'll go. Sounding right, dickhead. Go through breakups and that. I'm just like, okay, we'll break up. Cool. Like I'm not. I don't know. It's the things that are really final, like death, really hit me. And I remember I wasn't too sure how to feel about this. And I was doing this race, and I was fucking struggling, man. I was like really mountainous, hadn't properly trained for the terrain. Trained the distance, just not the terrain. And it was a lot more than I actually anticipated it would be. And it was 3 climbs over 50 miles. And I remember just being in fucking agony for most of it. And it wasn't until towards the end where I was absolutely shattered that I finally stopped distracting myself, and I actually had that little time with myself and that conversation. I could really appreciate what was going on up there and how I actually felt about him passing, and family and all these things that really matter to me. And I actually I stopped trying to think about how I should feel or what I should be, and I just felt the emotions, which is something again I've always struggled with. It's like if I'm feeling something, I go, oh, why do I feel that way? I start questioning the feelings, or trying to over-intellectualize the feelings, or try and outthink the feelings. You just feel the feelings sometimes. And I again, just the type of person I am, I often don't, feel the feelings at the moment. But it creates a really beautiful thing to really let go. And for me, it was that moment. There's this ridge line where we're above the tree line on the side of this mountain, and I'm going down this slight gradient, and I've been feeling terrible all race. And it's this moment where it was like getting towards sunset, and it was just a beautiful view. And I was just like, I really started feeling them then. And I had a little cry, and I was doing that, and I was like, okay, fuck. And as soon as I held the moment, it passed, and then I felt fine. My legs and all the rest of my body that were really tense and felt so much pain all disappeared. I ran like one of my fast over 20Ks, the last 20K of that race. And I think that's the beautiful thing about the ultra stuff is it is physical, yes. It's so emotional and so mental because it does strip you away. And that's the thing with these things. It strips away your ego. It strips away so much, and you're just left with putting one foot in front of the other through some of the most surreal, beautiful, scenic places. And it's that building of you as a person. It strips you back and builds you back up again. And I think there's something really magical in that. And that's why, the ultra space, especially places in gorgeous mountains or beautiful locations around the world, they are so special because you're away from everything else. You've got no phone service. You're not listening. Some people want to listen to music, but I think that's why now I'm quite conscious on my daily runs not to listen to music. I'm just trying to
be present in nature,
and feel my own emotions in there. Because that's one thing I guess I've always struggled with is feeling those emotions. And I just go, oh, this thing's happened. I should be sad, or oh, I should be happy. I don't know. And I'll try and think my way through them, as opposed to feeling them there. Because I'm probably guilty of trying to fucking be too smart for my own good sometimes and think, oh, I can outsmart this, I can do this, and you can't outthink your emotions. Your emotions are your emotions. You've got to feel them, right? And if you feel a certain way, you feel a certain way, and that's absolutely fine. So for me, that's why I think the ultra space is so exciting, because it brings in the components of elite level performers who are moving into the space and who are times are getting faster, and the data that comes with that, and the attention and the media that comes with that, and the excitement. UTMB used to be a bit of go back 10, 15 years. You have a couple of niche mountaineering brands who were kind of there. Whereas looked at this last year, oh my god, like a party going on.
Yeah, it was a festival, mate.
It was so cool. It was what a great thing. And so I think the more eyeballs in the sport like that, the better. It brings more interesting people into the sport. Also, people who've come from the road distance running world getting into the sport as well. But the beautiful thing about it is it's scalable as well. You don't have to go run 100 miles around Mont Blanc. You can go run 50 kilometer trail races. I know that Ultra X do a thing in Surrey. They've got the trail series. There's some beautiful things in this country. You don't have to fly overseas to go do them.
You don't have to do this big glamorous race that's going to cost you thousands to do. Just do your local one.
Oh God, absolutely not. There's some gorgeous things. We're blessed to live in a country that we have some absolutely phenomenal countryside, some phenomenal nature. The Lake District, the Peak District, go to Wales, you've got Snowdon, you've got so many wonderful, wonderful parts of this country. And
New Forest as well.
New Forest,
brilliant.
Absolutely.
They've got races all the time. The Maverick series is wicked.
Obviously, there you go. Well, as much as people love slagging off England and this country a lot of the time, and we won't discuss as and why of them. This is a beautiful country. We've got some beautiful nature and some beautiful countryside. And I'm spending a lot more time this year in this country. Yeah. I'll piss off to Texas for the race, but apart from that, I want to spend as much this year as possible here, enjoying the beautiful British countryside, enjoying a bit of nature. I started the year in Devon, middle of nowhere, fantastic.
Yeah.
Out of breath, running up like a 3% gradient. In my mind, it's a really big hill.
Yeah.
I drove past it the other day. I was like, this is not a big hill at all. But in my mind, I'm climbing up the UTMB like, fuck.
Well, Jonny, thanks so much for coming on, man.
My pleasure,
It's
mate.
been an absolute pleasure as always chatting to you, and best of luck with Last Man Standing, man.
Thank you very much,
no
mate.
doubt it's going to be an absolute success for you.
We'll give it a crack, mate.
Yeah, I know you got it in you, man.
Ledge.
Thanks so much for watching. Well, not you watching. You've been on it. Thanks for watching. Appreciate you. Make sure you're giving a little kind of rating on Spotify as well if you do watch or listen on there. We got onto the trending podcast chart. I just checked today, which is really cool. But let's get it higher. So yeah, if you are watching on Spotify, interact with it there, rate it, send it to someone, comment, do whatever you can. I appreciate the support. Anyway, thanks for watching. Thank you for listening, and I'll catch you next Thursday for another episode. Take care.